The ship called Hanbit moved slowly through the darkness of space. Its metal body was old but strong, covered with marks from many years of travel between stars. Inside the ship, three humans sat quietly in the control room, watching the screens that showed them a planet they had never seen before. Kang Ti-ho stood near the main window, his eyes fixed on the brown and green world growing larger before them. He was 34 years old, with tired eyes and steady hands. His job was to study alien life forms, and he had spent 15 years doing exactly that. But something about this mission felt different. The distress signal they had received was strange. It was broken and full of fear. "We will arrive in 20 minutes," said Baek-jun from his seat at the controls. He was the oldest member of the crew, 41 years old with gray hair at his temples. His hands moved across the buttons and switches with the easy skill of a man who had done this many times before. This was his third deep space mission, and he had seen many things that would make younger men afraid. But even he looked worried today. Yoon Hana walked into the control room carrying 3 cups of hot coffee. She was 29, the youngest of the group, but her eyes were sharp and her mind was quick. She worked as the field medic, which meant she was responsible for keeping everyone alive when things went wrong. And in space, things always went wrong. "The signal came from a Moreth research station," Hana said, handing a cup to Ti-ho. "They said something attacked them, something from underground." Ti-ho took the coffee but did not drink it. His mind was busy thinking about what they might find on that planet. The Moreth were an old and proud species. They looked like large insects, with hard shells covering their bodies and many legs that clicked when they walked. They had been traveling through space for thousands of years before humans even learned to make fire. To them, humans were new, young, weak. "The Moreth do not ask for help," June said quietly. "Not from anyone and never from humans." This was true. The Moreth respected strength and intelligence. They had watched humans join the galactic community 50 years ago and had decided that these soft, water-filled creatures were not worth their attention. Humans needed too much air. They needed too much water. They needed to sleep for hours every day. They produced strange fluids from their skin and eyes. To the Moreth, humans were fragile and strange. But now the Moreth had sent a distress signal, and the Hanbit was the closest ship. The planet below them was called Korath 7. It was an uncharted world, which meant no one had fully explored it yet. The Moreth had built a small research station there to study the ancient rocks and soil. According to their reports, the planet was safe. There were no dangerous creatures, no threats. But something had changed. The Hanbit broke through the clouds and flew toward the surface. Ti-ho could see the research station now, a collection of metal buildings sitting in a valley between 2 tall mountains. Smoke was rising from one of the buildings. Several walls had been broken open, and pieces of equipment lay scattered across the ground. There, Hana pointed at the screen. Movement near the main building. Ti-ho looked closer. He could see shapes moving in the shadows. They were long and thin, like snakes, but much larger. They moved with a terrible smoothness, sliding across the ground without making a sound. He counted 5 of them, then 10. Then he stopped counting. "What are those things?" June asked, his voice low. Ti-ho did not answer. He had studied thousands of alien species, but he had never seen anything like this. These creatures were massive, at least 10 meters long, with scales that seemed to absorb the light around them. Their heads were flat and wide, with mouths that opened to show rows of teeth like broken glass. The ship landed at a safe distance from the station. The 3 humans put on their protective suits and checked their weapons. They did not know what they were walking into, but they knew it would not be easy. The air outside was thick and hot. It smelled like metal and something else, something rotten. Ti-ho led the way, moving carefully between the broken pieces of equipment. Hana stayed close behind him, her medical bag hanging from her shoulder. June walked at the back, his eyes watching for any movement. They found the first body near the main entrance. It was a Moreth scientist, or what was left of one. The hard shell that usually protected these creatures had been broken open like an egg. Black blood covered the ground around it. Tiho kneeled down to examine the wounds. "Bite marks," he said quietly. "Very powerful jaws, and look at this." He pointed to the edges of the wounds where the flesh had turned gray and soft. Some kind of venom. It broke down the tissue. Hana took out her scanner and ran it over the body. The readings made her face turn pale. "This venom is extremely complex. Multiple proteins, high acidity. I have never seen anything like it." A sound came from inside the building. It was weak and broken, but it was definitely a voice. Someone was alive in there. They moved through the broken doorway into the darkness. The power was out, so they turned on the lights attached to their suits. The beams cut through the shadows and showed them a scene of destruction. Tables had been thrown against walls. Equipment had been smashed. More bodies lay on the floor, all of them Morath, all of them killed by the same terrible wounds. In the corner of the room, behind a pile of broken machines, they found her. She was a Morath female, her shell cracked in several places but still alive. Her large eyes reflected the light from their suits as she looked up at them. For a moment, she seemed confused. Then her expression changed to something Tiho recognized. It was disappointment. "Humans," she said, her voice clicking and buzzing through her translator device. "They sent humans." "I am Kang Tiho," he replied calmly. "We received your distress signal. We are here to help." The Morath made a sound that might have been a laugh or a cough. "Help? You cannot help. You are humans, soft, weak. You will die here like the rest of us." Her name was Velith. She was a liaison officer, responsible for communicating with other species. She told them what had happened while Hana treated her wounds. The creatures that attacked them were called Sketh. They had been sleeping deep underground for thousands of years, frozen in the cold soil. But the Morath drilling had woken them up. "Their venom is death," Velith said. "There is no cure, no treatment. Once it enters your body, you have 2 hours. Then your insides turn to liquid and you die screaming." Tiho listened carefully. His mind was already working on the problem, turning it over like a puzzle. There was always a solution. There had to be. "We need to get back to the ship," June said. "We can call for more help, a proper rescue team." But even as he spoke, they all heard it, a low hissing sound coming from the tunnels beneath the station. The Sketh knew they were here, and they were coming. Tiho looked at Velith, then at his crew. They had come here to help. Now they might have to fight just to survive. But giving up was not something humans did well. It never had been. "Then we move fast," Tiho said, "and we stay together. No one gets left behind." Velith watched him with those large alien eyes. She did not believe they would survive. But for the first time in a long while, something that looked almost like hope flickered across her face. These humans were either very brave or very stupid, perhaps both. Either way, she would find out soon enough. The tunnels beneath the research station were dark and cold. Water dripped from the ceiling, making soft sounds that echoed through the stone passages. Tiho led the group forward, his flashlight cutting through the blackness ahead. Behind him came Hana, then Velith, who limped on her damaged legs, and finally June, who watched the darkness behind them with careful eyes. "These tunnels connect to the surface 3 kilometers north," Velith explained, her voice quiet. "The Morath used them for research. We did not know the Sketh were sleeping down here." The air grew colder as they moved deeper. Tiho could see his breath forming small clouds in front of his face. His scanner showed many tunnels branching off in different directions, a maze of stone passages that seemed to go on forever. Finding their way out would not be easy. "How many Sketh are there?" Hana asked. Velith was silent for a moment. "We counted at least 40 before the attack stopped, but there could be more, many more. They hibernate for thousands of years, waiting for warmth and food. When they wake, they are very hungry." Tiho thought about the creatures he had seen on the surface. Their size, their speed, The terrible efficiency of their attacks, 40 of them, was a nightmare. More than 40 was something he did not want to think about. They walked for almost an hour before finding the first junction. The tunnel split into 3 separate paths, each one disappearing into darkness. Tiho checked his scanner, looking for any sign of movement. For a moment, everything was quiet. Then the hissing started. It came from behind them, a low sound that grew louder and louder. Tiho turned and saw shapes moving in the darkness. The Sketh had found them. They were coming fast, their long bodies sliding across the stone floor with terrible grace. "Run," Tiho said. They ran. Velith struggled to keep up with her damaged legs, so June grabbed her arm and pulled her forward. Hana stayed close to Tiho, her medical bag bouncing against her hip as she moved. The sound of the Sketh grew closer. Tiho could hear their scales scraping against the walls of the tunnel. They took the middle path, running as fast as they could through the narrow passage. The ceiling was lower here, forcing them to bend their heads. Rocks and water made the ground slippery under their feet. Behind them, the hissing grew louder. There, Hana pointed ahead, a door. It was an old metal door, probably installed by the Marath for their research. Tiho reached it first and pushed with all his strength. The door did not move. He pushed again, feeling his muscles burn with effort. Still nothing. "It is locked from the other side," Velith said. "The security system activated when the power went out." June stepped forward, pulling a small tool from his belt. "Give me 30 seconds." But they did not have 30 seconds. The first Sketh came around the corner, its flat head swinging toward them. Its mouth opened wide, showing teeth that gleamed in the flashlight beam. A terrible smell filled the tunnel, like poison and death mixed together. Tiho raised his weapon and fired. The energy blast hit the creature in the head, making it scream in pain. But it did not fall. It kept coming, faster now, angry and hungry. He fired again and again. More Sketh appeared behind the first one, filling the tunnel with their massive bodies. For every one he pushed back, 2 more took its place. His weapon began to overheat. Warning lights flashed on the side. Behind him, June was working on the lock. Velith watched with wide eyes, her translator making small clicking sounds as she whispered something in her own language. It sounded like a prayer. Hana saw the opening before anyone else did. A small gap in the wave of creatures, a moment where the tunnel was almost clear. She grabbed Velith and pushed her toward the door, trying to create space for June to work. That was when the juvenile Sketh attacked. It came from a crack in the wall, a creature smaller than the others but just as fast. It moved like water, flowing through the air toward Hana. She tried to dodge, but there was no room. The creature's teeth sank into her arm, cutting through her suit like paper. Hana screamed. The pain was like fire spreading through her body. She could feel the venom entering her blood, burning through her veins. The juvenile Sketh released her and slithered back into the crack, disappearing into the darkness. "Hana," Tiho turned and saw her falling. He caught her before she hit the ground, holding her in his arms. Her face was pale and covered with sweat. Her eyes were wide with fear and pain. The door clicked open behind them. "Move," June shouted. Tiho lifted Hana and carried her through the door. June and Velith followed, and together they pushed the heavy metal closed just as the first Sketh reached it. The creature slammed against the door, making it shake and groan. But it held. They were safe for now. Tiho laid Hana on the ground and looked at her wound. The bite was deep, cutting through skin and muscle. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was the venom. He could see it spreading through her arm, turning her veins black. The dark lines were crawling toward her shoulder, moving slowly but steadily toward her heart. "Let me see," Velith said, leaning close. Her large eyes studied the wound with a cold, scientific interest. After a moment, she leaned back and made a sound that Tiho did not need a translator to understand. It was hopeless. "The venom is in her blood," Velith said. It will reach her heart in 2 hours, perhaps less. After that, her organs will dissolve from the inside. She will die. Then we find a cure, Tiho said. Velith shook her head. There is no cure. Many species have tried. The Morath, the Velm, the Karathi, all of them failed. The Sketh venom is perfect. It destroys everything it touches. June kneeled beside Hana and took her hand. There has to be something, some kind of treatment, anything. Nothing, Velith said simply. No medicine in the known galaxy can stop it. I am sorry for your friend, but she is already dead. Hana tried to speak, but her voice was weak. Sweat covered her face and her body was shaking. The pain was growing worse with every passing second. She looked up at Tiho with eyes full of fear. It burns, she whispered. Tiho, it burns so much. He held her hand tighter. His mind was racing, searching for any answer, any solution. He had studied alien biology for 15 years. He had seen things that seemed impossible, but he had never seen anything like this. The venom was too strong, too complex. He pulled out his portable scanner and ran it over the wound. The readings showed exactly what Velith had said. The venom was a masterpiece of biological destruction. It attacked cell walls, broke down proteins, and destroyed tissue at the molecular level. Every known antidote would fail against it. But then he saw something strange. Some of the venom had come into contact with his gloves when he carried Hana. His gloves were covered with his own sweat from running through the tunnels, and where the sweat touched the venom, something was happening. The molecular structure was changing, breaking apart. It was small, almost nothing, but it was there. Tiho stared at the readings, his heart beating faster. He did not understand what he was seeing, but for the first time since the attack, he felt something other than fear. He felt hope. Velith, he said quietly, how much do your people know about human biology? The Morath looked at him with confusion. Very little. Humans are unimportant. Your bodies are weak and filled with unnecessary fluids. Why do you ask? Tiho did not answer immediately. He was too busy thinking, his mind working through possibilities that seemed crazy, impossible, stupid. But Hana was dying, and impossible was better than nothing. He looked at her pale face, at the black veins spreading across her skin, at the fear in her eyes. Then he looked at his own hands, covered with sweat and dirt and something else, something that might just save her life. Because, he said finally, I think those unnecessary fluids might be exactly what we need. The room they had found was an old Morath laboratory, filled with equipment that had been left behind when the attack started. Most of the machines still worked, their screens glowing with soft light in the darkness. Tiho moved quickly between them, setting up his scanner and connecting it to the Morath computers. Hana lay on a table in the center of the room. Her breathing was shallow and fast. The black veins had spread past her shoulder now, reaching toward her neck. June sat beside her, holding her hand and speaking to her in a soft voice. He told her about his daughter back on Earth, about the garden she was growing, about how the tomatoes would be ready to pick when they got home. Velith watched Tiho work with growing frustration. Her translator clicked and buzzed as she spoke. What are you doing? This is a waste of time. Your friend needs to prepare for death, not watch you play with machines. Tiho did not look up from his work. I saw something. When my sweat touched the venom, the molecular structure changed. It started breaking apart. Impossible, Velith said. Human sweat is nothing special. It is just water and salt and waste products. The Morath have studied the Sketh venom for centuries. If something as simple as sweat could stop it, we would have discovered this long ago. Maybe you did not look closely enough, Tiho replied. He pulled up the readings from his scanner on the main screen. The image showed two different molecular structures. One was the Sketh venom, a complex web of proteins that looked like a weapon designed by nature itself. The other was a sample of the venom after it had touched his sweat. The difference was clear. The second sample was falling apart. Velith moved closer to the screen, her large eyes studying the image. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she made a sound that T-Ho had never heard from a Morath before. It was surprise. "This is not possible," she said, but her voice was less certain now. T-Ho began pulling up more information on the screens. Human biology files, research papers, medical databases. He was looking for something specific, something he remembered reading about years ago. Human bodies produce many different fluids, he explained as he worked. Sweat, tears, saliva, blood. Most species see this as a weakness. We leak, we drip, we are wet and messy. But there is a reason for all of it. He found what he was looking for and displayed it on the screen. It was a paper about human evolution, about the millions of years humans had spent surviving on a planet that tried to kill them every day. Earth is what the galaxy calls a death world, T-Ho continued. The temperature changes constantly. The weather is violent. The water is filled with bacteria. The air carries diseases, and every living thing on the planet is either trying to eat us or infect us. Velith listened but said nothing. This information was not new to her. The Morath knew about Earth. They knew it was a dangerous place. But they had always assumed this meant humans were weak, barely surviving on a hostile world. T-Ho shook his head. "We are not weak because we survived Earth. We are strong because of it. Our bodies evolved to fight, to adapt, to produce defenses against anything that tried to hurt us." He pulled up another image on the screen. It showed the molecular structure of human tears. This is lysozyme. It is an enzyme found in human tears and saliva. Its only purpose is to destroy foreign proteins, to break them apart and kill them. Then he showed another image, human blood. And this is our immune system. When our body detects a foreign substance, it does not just wait for help. It attacks. It produces antibodies. It fights back with everything it has. Velith was starting to understand, but she still looked doubtful. "You are saying that human fluids can fight the Sketh venom?" "I am saying they already are," T-Ho replied. "My sweat alone caused the venom to destabilize. Imagine what would happen if we used something stronger. Blood, saliva, tears, all of them mixed together." The room was silent for a moment. June looked up from Hana's side, his face showing a mixture of hope and fear. "Are you serious? You want to use your own blood to cure her?" "Not just blood," T-Ho said. "A mixture. Blood for the antibodies, saliva for the lysozyme, sweat for the electrolytes. Combined together, they might create something that can neutralize the venom." Velith made a clicking sound that her translator turned into something like a laugh, but there was no humor in it. "This is madness. You want to inject your bodily fluids into another person. This is primitive, barbaric. This is not medicine. This is desperation." "Yes," T-Ho agreed. "It is desperate, because my friend is dying and I have no other options. You said there is no cure. You said no species in the galaxy has found a way to stop the venom. Maybe that is because no species in the galaxy has bodies like ours." He walked to a cabinet and began searching through the supplies inside. He found a clean container, a sharp knife, and some sterile bandages. His hands were steady as he laid them out on a table. "The Morath have hard shells," he continued. "The Veln have thick scales. The Karathi have exoskeletons. They evolved to keep things out, but humans evolved differently. We evolved to let things in and then destroy them." Velith watched him with her large alien eyes. She did not try to stop him, but she did not help him either. "Even if your theory is correct, the chance of success is very small. The venom has been in her system for over an hour. It has spread throughout her body. A few drops of your blood will not be enough." "Then I will use more than a few drops," T-Ho said. June stood up and walked over to his friend. "T-Ho, this could kill you. If you lose too much blood, you will be too weak to help anyone, including yourself." "I know the risks," T-Ho replied. He looked at Hana, at her pale face and her struggling breaths. The black veins had reached her neck now. They did not have much time. But she would do the same for me, for any of us. This was true. Hana had saved June's life twice during their missions together. She had stayed awake for 3 days straight once to keep a dying alien child alive until help arrived. She never gave up on anyone. Never. T-Ho picked up the knife and looked at his own hand. His palm was soft and pink, covered with lines that told the story of his life. In a moment, he would cut it open. He would let his blood flow out. He would mix it with his spit and his sweat and create something that had never existed before. It might work, it might fail, it might kill them both. But doing nothing was not an option. It never had been. That was what it meant to be human, to keep fighting even when the odds were impossible, to refuse to accept death even when it was standing right in front of you. June, T-Ho said quietly, I need your help. His friend nodded slowly. There were tears in his eyes, but his hands were steady. Tell me what to do. T-Ho took a deep breath. Then he pressed the blade against his palm and began to cut. The knife was sharp and the pain was immediate. T-Ho watched his blood flow from the cut in his palm, dark red and warm, dripping into the container below. It hurt more than he expected, but he did not make a sound. He had to stay calm. He had to think clearly. June stood beside him, ready to help. His face was pale, but his hands did not shake. He had seen blood before. He had seen worse things than this during his years in space. But watching his friend cut himself open was something different, something that made his stomach turn. How much do you need? June asked. As much as I can give without passing out, T-Ho replied. He flexed his hand, making the blood flow faster. The container was filling slowly, a small pool of dark liquid gathering at the bottom. Across the room, Velith watched with an expression that mixed disgust and fascination. Her species did not have blood like humans did. The Moreth had a clear fluid that moved through their bodies, carrying nutrients and oxygen. It was efficient and clean. Human blood, with its strong smell and thick texture, seemed almost primitive to her. This will not work, she said again, but her voice was quieter now, less certain. T-Ho ignored her. He focused on the task in front of him, counting the seconds as his blood continued to flow. When the container was about 1/3 full, he pulled his hand away and pressed a bandage against the wound. Now the rest, he said. He leaned over the container and spat into it. Once, twice, 3 times. The saliva mixed with the blood, creating a strange dark mixture that no one in the room had ever seen before. Then he wiped his forehead with his hand, collecting the sweat that had formed there, and added that too. June handed him a small mixing tool and T-Ho stirred the contents of the container. The mixture was ugly. It smelled strange. It looked like something that should be thrown away, not used as medicine. But the scanner told a different story. Look at this, T-Ho said, pointing at the screen. He had placed a drop of the mixture next to a sample of the sketh venom. On the screen, they could all see what was happening. The venom was breaking apart. Its complex protein chains were collapsing, falling into pieces that were no longer dangerous. Velith moved closer, her eyes fixed on the screen. This is remarkable, she admitted. The enzymes in your fluids are attacking the venom structure. They are treating it like an infection and destroying it. Will it work inside a living body? June asked. The venom has already spread through her system. It has been there for almost 2 hours. T-Ho looked at Hana. She was barely conscious now, her eyes half closed, her breathing shallow and weak. The black veins covered most of her neck and were starting to appear on her face. They did not have time for more tests. They did not have time for doubt. We have to try, he said. He filled a medical injector with the mixture and walked to Hana's side. Her skin was cold and wet with sweat. He could feel her heartbeat, fast and irregular, fighting against the poison that was destroying her from inside. Hana, he said softly, can you hear me? Her eyes opened slightly. She tried to speak, but no words came out. Instead, she just looked at him and he could see the fear in her eyes. She knew she was dying. She had accepted it. But Tiho had not. "I am going to give you something," he told her. "It might hurt, it might not work, but I am not going to let you die without trying everything possible. Do you understand?" Hana managed a small nod. Her hand moved slightly, reaching for his. He took it and held it tight. Then he pressed the injector against her arm, right next to the bite wound, and pushed the trigger. The effect was immediate. Hana screamed, her body arching off the table. The mixture was entering her bloodstream, spreading through her veins, meeting the venom that had already made itself at home there. Inside her body, a war was beginning. June held her down, keeping her from hurting herself as she thrashed and screamed. Velith stepped back, her face showing something that might have been concern. Tiho watched the scanner, his heart pounding, waiting to see what would happen. For 30 seconds, nothing changed. The black veins continued to spread. Hana continued to scream. The venom seemed to be winning. Then slowly, something began to shift. The black veins stopped moving. They did not disappear, but they stopped spreading. On the scanner, Tiho could see the mixture doing its work, attacking the venom molecules one by one, breaking them apart and neutralizing them. "It is working," he whispered. June looked at the screen, his eyes wide. "Is that possible? Is that really happening?" 1 minute passed, then 2, then 5. Hana stopped screaming, her body relaxed. Her breathing became slower, more regular. The color started to return to her face. And the black veins began to fade. It was not fast, it was not dramatic, but it was happening. The poison that had never been cured, the venom that had killed thousands of creatures across the galaxy, was losing. It was being destroyed by something as simple as human blood and spit and sweat. Velith made a sound that her translator could not properly convert. It was something between a gasp and a prayer. "This should not be possible," she said. "This goes against everything we know about biology, about medicine, about humans." Tiho sat down heavily, suddenly feeling the effects of blood loss. His head was spinning and his hands were shaking, but he was smiling. Humans are full of surprises. 10 more minutes passed. The black veins were almost gone now, leaving only faint gray lines on Hana's skin. Her eyes opened fully, and she looked around the room with confusion. "What happened?" she asked, her voice rough and weak. "I thought I was dying." "You were," June said, tears running down his face. "You were dying, but Tiho saved you." Hana looked at Tiho, at his bandaged hand and his pale face. She did not understand yet. She did not know what he had done, but she would learn, and when she did, she would never forget. Velith approached the table slowly, her movements careful and respectful. She looked at Hana, then at Tiho, then at the container that still held the remains of the mixture. "How?" she asked simply. "How is this possible? Your species is young, primitive, your bodies are soft and weak. How can you produce something that we could not create in 1,000 years of research?" Tiho thought about the question carefully before answering. His mind was tired, but he wanted to explain this properly. He wanted Velith to understand. "Earth tried to kill us every day for millions of years," he said. "Bacteria in the water, viruses in the air, parasites in our food, poisons in the plants we ate, and we survived all of it, not by growing armor or shells or scales, but by building weapons inside our own bodies." He held up his bandaged hand. "This blood has been fighting wars since before humans could speak. It knows how to win. It knows how to adapt. It knows how to destroy anything that threatens us." Velith was silent for a long moment. Then she did something that Tiho had never seen a Morath do. She bowed her head, a gesture of respect among her people. "I was wrong about humans," she said quietly. "We all were." Tiho nodded slowly. He was too tired to feel proud, but somewhere deep inside him something warm was growing. Not just relief that Hana was alive, but something bigger. The knowledge that humans were not weak. They had never been weak. They were survivors, and today they had proven it. 3 days had passed since they escaped from the tunnels. The Sketh had eventually given up and returned to their underground homes, waiting for easier prey. The 4 survivors had made their way back to the Handbit, carrying their wounded and their hope. Now the ship floated in orbit above Korath 7, its damaged hull being repaired by small robotic drones. Inside, life had returned to something almost normal. Almost. Hana sat in the medical bay, her arm wrapped in clean bandages. The bite wound was healing fast, much faster than anyone expected. The gray lines on her skin had faded to almost nothing, just faint marks that would eventually disappear completely. She was alive. She was getting stronger every hour. Tiho sat beside her, looking out the window at the stars. His hand was healing too, though the cut on his palm would leave a scar. He did not mind. Some scars were worth keeping. "I still do not understand it completely," Hana said softly. "You used your own blood to cure an alien poison. How did you even think of that?" Tiho smiled. "I did not think of it, I saw it. The venom reacted to my sweat and my mind just started connecting pieces. Evolution, enzymes, the way human bodies work. It all came together in one desperate idea." "A desperate idea that saved my life," Hana replied. She reached out and took his hand, careful not to touch his wound. "Thank you. I know those words are not enough, but thank you." He squeezed her hand gently. There was nothing more that needed to be said. The door to the medical bay opened, and June walked in with a tablet in his hands. His face showed an expression that Tiho had trouble reading. It was something between excitement and disbelief. "You need to see this," June said. "Velith sent her report to the Morath High Council. They shared it with the scientific community, and now everyone is talking about it." He handed the tablet to Tiho. On the screen was a message board used by scientists across the galaxy. Thousands of posts had appeared in the last few hours, all of them discussing the same topic: humans, human biology, human blood. Tiho scrolled through the messages. Some were skeptical. Some were excited. Some were demanding more information, more tests, more proof. But all of them were taking the idea seriously. All of them were reconsidering what they thought they knew about the strange, soft creatures from Earth. "The Morath wants samples of your blood," June said. "So do the Velm, and the Karathi, and about 12 other species I have never heard of. They want to study it, understand it, see if it can help cure other poisons and diseases." Hana laughed softly. "A few days ago they thought humans were weak and primitive. Now they want our blood." "Not just blood," June continued. "They want to study everything: sweat, tears, saliva. They want to understand how our immune system works, how our bodies create these defenses. One scientist called it the most impressive biological weapon system in the known galaxy." Tiho set down the tablet and leaned back in his chair. He was not sure how to feel about all of this. Part of him was proud. Proud that humans had finally proven their worth to a galaxy that had always looked down on them. But another part of him felt strange. Different. The door opened again, and Velith entered the room. She moved more easily now, her wounds healing under Hana's care. The Morath stopped near the window and looked at the 3 humans with her large, dark eyes. "I have received many messages," she said. Her translator clicked and buzzed, turning her alien words into sounds they could understand. "Scientists, politicians, military leaders, they all want to know more about what happened here." "What did you tell them?" Tiho asked. Velith was quiet for a moment before answering. "I told them the truth, that a human used his own body to create a cure that no one else in the galaxy could find, that humans are not what we thought they were." She walked closer to Tiho and did something unexpected. She performed the bow of equals, the same gesture she had made days ago. But this time it felt different, deeper, more meaningful. "My people have watched the stars for 10,000 years, Velith said. "We have met thousands of species. We have learned their strengths and weaknesses. We thought we understood the universe, but we did not understand you." She straightened and looked at all three of them. "We saw your soft skin and thought you were fragile. We saw your constant sweating and thought you were poorly designed. We saw your tears and thought you were weak, but we were wrong." Tiho nodded slowly. "We get that a lot." "You evolved on a death world," Velith continued. "A planet that attacked you constantly with diseases and poisons and predators. And instead of growing armor to protect yourselves, you grew weapons. Inside your bodies, in your blood and tears and spit. You became walking biological warfare machines." Hana smiled. "When you put it that way, it sounds almost scary." "It is scary," Velith replied. "And it is also wonderful. You did not survive your planet by being strong in the ways we understand strength. You survived by being adaptable, by being creative, by refusing to die no matter what was thrown at you." June looked out the window at the stars. "So what happens now? The galaxy knows about humans, really knows. Will things change?" Velith considered the question carefully. "Yes, things will change. Some species will want to study you, others will want to work with you, and some, I suspect, will be afraid of you." "Afraid?" Hana asked. "Of us?" "You survived a death world," Velith said. "You carry weapons in your blood. You do not give up, even when facing certain death. These are not qualities that make other species feel comfortable. They are qualities that make them nervous." Tiho stood up and walked to the window. Below him, the planet Korath 7 turned slowly in space. Somewhere down there, the Sketh were sleeping again, waiting for their next meal. They would wait a long time. No one would be visiting that planet again soon. "I do not want people to be afraid of us," he said quietly. "That was never the point. The point was to save Hana, to survive, to get home." Velith moved to stand beside him. "That is exactly why other species should respect you. You did not do this for glory or power. You did it because your friend was dying and you refused to accept it. That kind of loyalty, that kind of determination, is rare in the galaxy." The ship began to move, its engines humming softly as it prepared to leave orbit. Soon they would be heading home, back to Earth, back to families and friends who had no idea what had happened on this distant planet. But things would be different now. The galaxy was watching. Humans were no longer the strange, wet creatures that everyone ignored. They were something else now, something new. June asked the question that was on everyone's mind. "Do you think they will see us differently, really see us?" Tiho thought about it. He thought about all the years humans had been treated as second-class citizens in the galactic community. All the times they had been overlooked or dismissed or mocked for their strange biology. All the times they had been told they were weak. "They will understand eventually," he said, "that everything they thought was a weakness is actually a strength. That sweating and bleeding and crying are not signs that we are broken. They are signs that we have already survived everything." He turned away from the window and looked at his friends, his family, the people who had stood beside him when death was breathing down their necks. "What does not kill us makes us stronger," he said, "and we have been getting stronger for millions of years." Velith tilted her head, considering his words. Then she nodded slowly. "Your entire species is made of what did not kill you." Tiho smiled. "Exactly." The Hambit broke free of orbit and pointed itself toward the distant stars. Home was waiting, and somewhere out there, a galaxy was finally beginning to understand what it meant to be human. Not weak, not fragile, not primitive. Just survivors, the way they had always been.